Chapter 5. Dorothy opens the dinner pail. I sure hope something else happens than just she opens the dinner pail, because that would make for a very dull chapter. We'll see. Let's not get our hopes up too much.
Now, TikTok, said Dorothy, the first thing here to be done is to find a way for us to escape from these rocks.
She's just saying that this machine has to do all the work. Like, here's all our problems, solve them now.
The Wheelers are down below, you know, and they threaten to kill us.
There is no reason to be afraid of the Wheelers, said TikTok, the words coming more slowly than before.
Why not?
Because they are He gave sort of a gurgle and stopped short, waving his hands frantically until suddenly he became motionless, with one arm in the air and the other held stiffly before him, with all his copper fingers of the hand spread out like a fan.
"Well, dear me,"
said Dorothy in a frightened tone.
"What can the matter be?"
He's run down, I suppose," said the hen calmly. You couldn't have wound him up very tight." Again, another jab. What fun. And that is going to be kind of annoying if you have to wind him up after a couple minutes of talking. But at the same time, less talking. So maybe that's good.
"I didn't know how much to wind him," replied the girl, "but I'll try to do better next time."
She ran around the copper man to take the key from the peg in the back of his neck, but it was not there.
"It's gone!"
cried Dorothy in dismay. What's gone?
"With the key."
"It probably fell off when he made that low bow to you," returned the hen. "Look around, see if you can find it again." Dorothy looked, and the hen helped her, and by the girl discovered the clock key, which had fallen into the crack of the rock. At once she wound up TikTok's voice, taking care to give the key as many turns as it would go. She found this quite a task, for you may imagine if you've ever tried to wind a clock. The machine man's first words were to assure Dorothy that he would now run for at least 24 hours. That seems incorrect, mathematically. "You did not wind me much at first," he said calmly, "and I told you that long story about King Evoldo, so it is no wonder that I ran down." She next rewound the action clockwork.
"And now,"
said Dorothy, when all this was accomplished,
"tell me what you were going to say about the Wheelers."
"Why, they are nothing to be frightened at. They try to make folks believe that they are very terrible. But as a matter of fact, the Wheelers are harmless enough to anyone who dares to fight them. They might try to hurt a little girl like you, perhaps." Which is exactly the definition of bad. They're nothing to be frightened at, they just might hurt you. Perhaps because they are very mischievous, but if I had a club, they would run away as soon as they saw me.
"Haven't you a club?"
asked Dorothy. "No," said TikTok. Brilliant. "And you won't find such a thing among these rocks either," declared the yellow hen.
"Oh, what shall we do?"
asked the girl. "Wind up my think works tightly. I will try to think of some other plan," said TikTok. So Dorothy rewound his thought machinery, and while he was thinking, she decided to eat her dinner. Yet so far, I would say everything that's happened in the chapter has been more important than Dorothy eating her dinner. Yes, Dorothy should eat dinner. I'm not saying she shouldn't. I'm just saying it is not the main plot point of this chapter. It's something that happened, something Dorothy needed to do. But this discovery of TikTok, Perhaps him able to help them get out of the situation that they're in by giving some insight to the Wheelers. That is the point. But let's continue with Dorothy eating dinner, and we'll see how much detail we get about that. Billina was already pecking away at the cracks in the rocks to find something to eat. So Dorothy sat down and opened her dinner pail. In the cover, she found a small tank that was full of some very nice lemonade. We like lemonade. It was covered by a cup, which might also, when removed, be used to drink the lemonade from. Within the pail, there were 3 slices of turkey, 2 slices of cold tongue. I'm sorry, a tongue? Some lobster salad, 4 slices of bread and butter, a custard pie, an orange, and 9 large strawberries, and some nuts and raisins. One of those things was not food, and that was the tongue. The nuts in this dinner pail grew already cracked, so Dorothy had no trouble in picking out their meats to eat. I don't know, it's just, we all eat food. And I could tell you that I made some lunch also. Some rice, some chicken, kind of burnt the chicken, may have set off the fire alarm, may have had the fire department come to my apartment. That's a better, more interesting story than the chicken itself that I, and the rice. Anyway, whatever. More on Dorothy's meal. Right after. More on Dorothy's meal to come. That's next. She spread the feast upon the rock beside her and began to eat her dinner, first offering some of it to TikTok, who declined because, as he said, he was merely a machine. Afterward, she offered to share some with Billina, and the hen murmured something about, quote, dead things, unquote, and that she preferred her bugs and ants. Do the lunchbox trees and the dinner pail trees belong to the Wheelers? The child asked TikTok while engaged in eating her meal. Of course not, he answered. They belong to the royal family of Ev. Only, of course, there is no royal family now because the King Evaldo jumped into the sea, and his wife and 10 children have been transformed by the Gnome King. So there is no one to rule the land of Ev that I can think of. Perhaps it is the reason that the Wheelers claim the trees for their own and pick luncheons and dinners to eat themselves. But they belonged to the king, and you will find a royal E stamped up upon the bottom of every dinner pail. We'll call Dorothy the lunch lady, because it's funny. Dorothy turned the pail over and at once discovered the royal mark upon it, as TikTok had said. Are the Wheelers the only folks living in the land of Ev? Inquired the girl. No, they only inhabit a small portion of it, just back of the woods, replied the machine. But they always have been mischievous and impertinent, and my old master, King Evaldo, used to carry a whip with him when he walked out to keep the creatures in order. When I was first made, the Wheelers tried to run me over and butt me with their heads, but they soon found I was built too solid a material for them to injure me. You seem very durable, said Dorothy. Well, who made you? The firm of Smith and Tinker, in the town of Evna, where the royal palace stands, answered TikTok. Yeah, we knew that Smith and Tinker thing already, Dorothy. Well, did they make many of you? Asked the child. No, I am the only automatic mechanical man they have ever completed, he replied. They were very wonderful inventors. My makers, They were quite artistic in all they did.
Well, I am sure of that, said Dorothy. Do they live in the town of Evner now?
They are both gone, replied the machine. Mr. Smith was an artist as well as an inventor, and he painted a picture of a river which was so natural that as he was reaching across to paint some flowers on the opposite bank, he fell into the water and drowned. That can't be right. Sorry, he was making a picture of water and he fell into the picture and drowned? That's not a real thing.
Oh, I am sorry for that, exclaimed the little girl.
Mr. Tinker, continued Tick-Tock, made a ladder so tall that he could rest it against the moon. Well, he stood on the highest rung and picked little stars to set in the point of the king's crown. But when he got to the moon, Mr. Tinker found it was such a lovely place he decided to live there, so he pulled up the ladder after him, and we have never seen him since. Okay, Tick-Tock is mentally ill. He's a fry short of a happy meal. A complete wacko. A wackadoodle-doo, as we say in the mental health community.
Well, he must have been a great loss to this country, said Dorothy, who was at this time eating her custard pie.
He was, acknowledged Tick-Tock. Also, he is a great loss to me. For if I should get out of order, I do not know anyone able to repair me, because I am so complicated. You have no idea how full of machinery I am.
Well, I can imagine it, said Dorothy readily.
And now, continued the machine, I must stop talking and begin thinking again of a way to escape from this rock. I'll be honest, I thought that was what he was doing, thinking already. But no. So he turned halfway around in order to think without being disturbed.
The best thinker I ever knew, said Dorothy to the yellow hen, was a scarecrow.
First of all, not true. Second of all, he clearly wants to not be disturbed while thinking, and now you're going off about your friend, the Scarecrow. Nick Scarer, or whatever his name is.
Bork?
Nonsense, snapped Billina. Yes, nonsense indeed.
Well, it is true, declared Dorothy. I met him in the Land of Oz, and he traveled with me to the city of the Great Lizard of Oz. So, as to get some brains. For his head was only stuffed with straw, but it seemed to me that he thought just as well before he got his brains as he did afterwardly.
Yeah, I mean, he thought stupidly afterwards.
Mark, do you expect me to believe all that rubbish about the Land of Oz?
Inquired Billina, the talking hen, who seemed a little cross because the bugs were scarce.
Why, your impossible stories about animals that can talk, and a tin woodman who is alive, and a scarecrow who can think.
Well, they all are there, said Dorothy, for I have seen them.
I don't believe it,
cried the hen, with a toss of her head.
Well, that's because you're ignorant,
replied the girl, who was a little offended at her friend Billina's speech. In the Land of Oz, remarked Tick-Tock, turning toward them, anything is possible, for it is a wonderful fairy country.
There, Billina, what did I say?
cried Dorothy, and she turned to the machine and asked in an eager tone,
Do you know the Land of Oz, Tick-Tock?
No, but I have heard about it, said the Copper Man, for it is only separated from the Land of Ev by a broad desert.
Dorothy clapped her hands together delightedly. Well, I'm glad of that, she exclaimed. It makes me quite happy to be so near to my old friends. The Scarecrow I told you of, Billina, is the king of the Land of Oz.
Pardon me, he is not the king now, said Tick-Tock.
He was when I left there, declared Dorothy.
I know, said Tick-Tock, but there was a revolution in the land of Oz, and the Scarecrow was deposed by a soldier woman named General Ginger. And then Ginger was deposed by a little girl named Ozma, who was the rightful heir to the throne and now rules under the title Ozma of Oz.
That's the name of the book. Well, that's news to me, said Dorothy thoughtfully. But I suppose lots of things have happened since I left the land of Oz. I wonder what's become of the Scarecrow, and of the Tin Woodman, and of the Cowardly Lion. And I wonder who this girl Ozma is. I've never heard of her before.
But Tick-Tock did not reply to this. He turned around again to resume his thinking. Dorothy packed the rest of her food into the pail. I hope she did not eat the tongue, so as not to be wasteful of good things and bad things. And the yellow hen forgot about her dignity far enough to pick up all the scattered crumbs, which she ate greedily, although she had so lately pretended to despise the things that Dorothy preferred as food. By this time, Tick-Tock approached them with his stiff bow. "Be kind enough to follow me," he said, "and I will take you away from here to the town of Evna, where you will be more comfortable, and also it will protect you from the Wheelers."
Well, all right, answered Dorothy promptly. I'm ready.